Hey guys, welcome. It's Diana, and today is day 2 of our week-long of Stampin' Up! Watercolor techniques. Yesterday we did the plastic wrap stamping. Today we're doing bubble wrap stamping, and then be sure to join us all week. Subscribe so you don't miss a thing in the future, and then I'll have more details below after the video. So what we are doing today, check this out. This is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I used the Gather Together, soon to be available stamp set, and I used this technique. The number one tool we have to have, as I have said all week long, is the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. This stuff is so important because anytime you're doing a watercolor technique, you want 100% cotton. This is the best stuff, and any artist or full-time person who's trained in watercolor would tell you this. So let me show you some of the other pieces that I've got. This is a couple of different variations on the technique, and I'm going to show those to you today. All right, so let's get started. You're going to need your classic Stampin' ink refills. These things last forever. They're only $3.75, and you get a 0.5 fluid ounce container. I've been a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for 15 years, and I've never used a full bottle. This is your Mr. Spritzer, Stampin' Up! Spritzer, and then of course one of my favorite tools is my Aqua Painter. I would also recommend some paper towels, yes, and then I also like to use a plastic container that has a black color to it. That way I can really have fun and not worry about staining anything. You're also going to need, imagine this, bubble wrap. Oh! No, don't do that. We want to stamp with it, so this is going to be fun. Here we go. Let me grab my paper. And the first thing we want to do is put down a wash. And a wash is just a fancy name for splashing some water all across your paper. You want to leave some spots that don't have water in them. And I will tell you, I'm an artist, or I've been trained as an artist, and I consider myself an artist. There you go. You can see how there's parts that are dry and parts that are wetter. Professionally trained artists will tell you watercolor is the hardest technique there is. So don't feel like you should be an expert at this, or that you should have it come out perfect every time, because it's just not going to happen. This is all about experimentation. So I'm going to drop some color down. This is our darkest color. This is the Garden Green. Next, I'm going to add some Old Olive. Now, this could be a technique all on its own, just dropping some color on here. And I'm sure there's a name for that, but it slips my mind if there is. And then here's our last color. This is my Pool Party. Love, love, love Pool Party. And then I've got my plastic wrap. This is really hard technique, guys. You take the plastic wrap and you stamp it down on there. Now, if you were around yesterday, you'll remember that we did the plastic wrap technique. And look at this. Oh, we could do plastic wrap technique with this. And what I would probably do is take something that has weight and put it on top of this, like maybe my Stampin' Up! Catalog. Let's do that. Put that on there, set that aside, and then come back tomorrow and pull this off, and you would have a beautiful, beautiful piece of paper. But we're not going to do that today. That would be a variation on our technique yesterday. This is what we're going to do. We're going to pull that off of there and just let it dry like that. How beautiful. So it's going to come out, and through the magic of, say, television or video, I guess, you're going to get something like this. And you can see it's really important that you leave bits of white, because that really gives it dimension. The more white you leave, the more you'll have something like this on your paper when you go to use it in the background. So this is going to be a really nice piece to put as a background. And then these are actually stamped on top of the background paper that I created, and then punched, or not punched, cut with the die cutting machine. And you'll see they look really pretty as pumpkins. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch out pieces of paper on you. This guy here is, say, imagine this dried, and this is what we've got. I do want to use some paper towel and do a bit of blotting. Blotting is a technique that watercolor artists use, and it just kind of takes off the really wettest parts of the water. And so we are using an official watercolor, not a Stampin' Up! Necessarily technique. You can see I could use this and blot that onto another piece of paper or another project. But let's do this. So we're going to lay this one aside, and now we're going to work on a dried piece from yesterday. And you can see here, this is another way to do the technique. I'm going to take and put my refill ink directly on here. And there's no wrong way, there's no right way. Remember, we're experimenting. We're getting our hands dirty. We're artists. And then what I'm gonna do is blot this on the dry. It's dry. Well, sort of dry, anyway. And see that lovely texture that I get? Here is what that looks like when it dries. Isn't that beautiful? So I hope you have enjoyed learning a new technique with me today. I love, love, love using techniques in my projects that are different and really make my projects stand out. I want to share with you a couple of other projects that I made. This is the same exact technique. You can see I left quite a bit of the just plain paper. It really gives it breath and light, and that's what artists would tell you to do whenever you're watercoloring. It's the hardest thing to do, is to leave some air in your project. This one here, this is a technique we're going to learn later in the week, but this background is what I want you to concentrate on. This was cut out using the Silhouette Scenes bundle, and this guy here, you can see it's one piece of paper and has all this coloration, and it's so pretty. So I hope you enjoyed today's technique. I hope you will subscribe if you have not before. And then these leaves I made with this technique as well. So it's a beautiful technique. It's a beautiful day. Can't wait to stamp with you again. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another technique, this week's watercolor stamping, Stampin' Up! Style. Thanks. This is Diana at Stamping Moon.